France, 1944. In the weeks following D-Day, two French cyclists go out for a ride and cross the border of an Allied military camp, stumbling across an extraordinary sight. Four American GIs picking up what appears to be a 40-ton Sherman tank.
The Ghost Army of World War II explored the idea of using deception to exchange false information. These false encounters successfully affected the outcome of World War II battles following the Normandy invasion, and as a result, changed the way wars are fought today. Members of the Ghost Army exchanged their wartime skills for artistic and innovative careers. The bombing of Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, brought the United States into World War II and caused the country to fear for attacks on the mainland. Trying to find a way to protect entire military bases, American war planners, including Ralph Ingersoll, invented the idea of camouflaging the bases. To do that, they would need some creative minds. Ingersoll set out to assemble a group of men from art schools from across the country. The men used their artistic abilities to make the military bases look like countryside from the air. This unit of artists became known as the 603rd Camouflage Engineer Battalion. Ingersoll referred to the men as his con artists.
The con artist's job is to hoodwink the enemy instead of slugging it out with them.
It became Ingersoll and his group's job to give the Allies every advantage they could. Having observed what the British had done with deceptions in North Africa, Ralph Ingersoll developed the idea to use the 603rd Camouflage Engineer Battalion as a mobile deception unit to fool the Axis. Military deception has been used since ancient warfare. Ingersoll explored using new types of deception. In order to pull this operation off, the 603rd Camouflage Engineer Battalion joined the 23rd Headquarters, forming what was now unofficially called the Ghost Army. The Ghost Army would explore completely new kinds of visual, sonic, and radio deceptions in their encounters with the enemy.
It's about creativity and imagination, and using them in war not to kill your enemy, but to save lives. Rick Beyer.
Well, our responsibility were basically to put the things up, to inflate them at night. That was our part, and then there was a sonic unit that played sounds of tanks and trucks going into position. Then there was a signal company that sent out bogus signals that the enemy would think were the real thing.
Together, all three branches would use their skills to impersonate other outfits. Before the Ghost Army impersonated a unit, they would observe that particular unit to see how it acted and performed its tasks. Then they would send a few Ghost Army soldiers to join the troops for a few days to experience that unit's operations. They would also record the sounds of the equipment used in that unit so they could play it back later, using this effect as part of their deception.
That was a very important part, the research of a real outfit before we stimulated them. So we would send our operators in to do their actual work for a few days. The enemy would not so realize that there was a difference in their operational techniques.
2 months after landing in Normandy, the Ghost Army was sent to aid in the Battle of Brest in one of their more notorious encounters. The Ghost Army was sent to the port city of Brest, France, where their job was to make it appear as if the American troops were almost twice as numerous as they actually were, which would aid in seizing the city. During their time in the area, Ghost Army soldiers drove through nearby towns with the 6th Armored Division insignia displayed on their jeeps to enhance the deception.
The men created the insignias of the units they were impersonating. They're going to have a lieutenant in their unit put on general stars and act like he's the general of the 75th Infantry Division. Totally against Army regulations, but they did it. Rick Beyer.
More than 50 fake tanks and artillery were used by the camouflage unit, perilously close to the front lines of Brest.
We were going to be using inflatable equipment to try and fool the Germans into thinking we were a real army, when we were in effect, I suppose, a rubber army. Jack Macy.
The visuals were not all that was necessary to pull off full-scale deceptions. The sonic unit was important as well in this encounter. The special group of about 200 men broadcasted false recordings of tanks and entire outfits moving into new encampments. These false tanks had to be attended to day and night. The Ghost Army could not risk the barrels of the tanks sagging, which would result in ruining the overall deception. However, the secrecy of the unit was so well kept that the Allied units they were aiding sent a tank platoon to assist the Ghost Army against the enemy. Suddenly, the Allied units came under enemy fire when they arrived to help the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. Unaware that the Ghost Army could not fight off the Germans with its additional tanks, resulted in catastrophe for the tank platoon. German maps and the interrogation of captured German officers following the Battle of Brest confirmed that the Ghost Army's deception had been successful.
So we were successful in fooling them, but we were not successful in getting them to surrender, nor was the entire American army.
Despite setbacks at Brest, the Ghost Army had proven that their unique deception methods were effective. The unit proceeded to be involved in more than 20 operations as the Allied forces advanced across Europe.
The beauty of being able to paint or draw from an early age is that you never feel trapped, least of all by your immediate circumstances. Bill Blass.
In between operations, members of the Ghost Army exercised their creativity. During the soldiers' free time, many of the soldiers would draw and sketch. An example is that of Bill Blass, a member of the camouflage unit. He would sketch women's fashion designs while in foxholes. He used some of these designs later in his fashion career following the war. He even created his logo on the battlefield. The skills these artists developed during the war would influence their later careers.
The 23rd's last deceptive effort of the war was fortunately the best. Official history of the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops.
The Ghost Army's last operation, known as Operation Viersen, occurred at the Rhine River crossing. It deployed south of where the real units were going in order to make the Nazis think the Allies were going to attack there. In reality, the Allies were attacking to the north.
And we came in from the west to confuse the Germans on the other side of the Rhine that we were actually going to cross. And the real crossing took place about a mile away. But we had fake ponton equipment, fake everything. The only thing that wasn't fake was us.
Trucks equipped with loudspeakers played recordings of military vehicles crossing various terrains to imitate the effect of the Allies preparing for an attack.
We had 1,100 men in our outfit in the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, and we could simulate up to 30,000.
Just as the Nazis prepared for an attack from where the Ghost Army was stationed, the real American troops crossed the Rhine River and attacked the German army. The Germans found themselves in utter chaos due to the Ghost Army's deception, which resulted in victory for the Allies. Very few American casualties occurred during Operation Viersen.
There is no doubt, said one report, that Operation Viersen materially assisted in deceiving the enemy with regard to the real disposition and intentions of this army.
Following World War II, Ghost Army members had successful careers using the skills and the art that they had developed on the battlefield. They were able to share their talents with the public.
All of these kinds of things that affect our culture can be tracked back to the Ghost Army.
Many Ghost Army members exchanged their war experiences by using their talents honed in the Ghost Army to make major contributions in the art community. Ellsworth Kelly, an artist who focuses on minimalistic work, went on to have a very successful painting career. The camouflage he worked with during the war influenced his choice of art techniques he used subsequently in his career. Arthur Shilstone sketched for various magazines including Life, National Geographic, Sports Illustrated, and the New York Times Magazine, among many others. As a successful photographer, Art Kane worked for popular musical groups such as The Who, Janis Joplin, Bob Dylan, and the Rolling Stones. Art Kane is also known for his famous photograph, A Great Day in Harlem. Continuing to work, even today, successful architect Gilbert Seltzer has designed buildings for a number of colleges, including West Point. A successful architect, Jack Macy, worked on the Statue of Liberty and exhibited his art around the world.
Some Ghost Army veterans made names for themselves in the fashion industry. George Nardiello was a fashion designer after the war and worked with Marilyn Monroe, designing many of her dresses. John Jarvie owned the magazine Women's Wear Daily and became a well-known art director. Bill Blass, a women's fashion designer, went on to have arguably the most successful career out of all the Ghost Army soldiers. He started his own fashion company, which became a national phenomenon. Blass utilized the design techniques he had developed while in the war to build a successful career. The new deception tactics pioneered by the Ghost Army are still used today in modern warfare. Radio deception was used during the Gulf War and the Cold War. The U.S. Army continued to use and improve on the inflatable tanks pioneered by the Ghost Army. In modern warfare, inflatable M1 Abrams tanks have also been outfitted with heat signatures to enhance the deception. The Ghost Army's efforts saved an unknown number of lives. Their bravery has been said to be summed up by these Ghost Army veterans.
They estimated we saved between 15 and 30,000 lives with our maneuvers. Even if we had saved 15 or 30, it would have been worth it. Spike Berry.
We didn't think of ourselves as heroics. We were happy to learn that we were successful.
Arthur Shilstone can still remember his encounter with the cyclists in Normandy who are looking for an answer. How could 4 men pick up a Sherman tank? He watches the unsuspecting trespassers ride off, shaking their heads in disbelief, as he tells them, "The Americans are very strong."